Welcome back to another deck profile. Today we're doing For Hires. If you notice an audio difference, I actually am using my headset to record the audio this time. Let me know what you think about it down in the comments below. Also, if you're new here and you enjoy my content, subscribe, hit that like button. Don't forget to press that little bell. It'd mean a lot. Let's get right into it. This is my 10th time recording this as well, so I'm dedicated to get you guys deck profile. These fucking cards would cooperate. I'm sorry. I'm very mad because my phone keeps screwing up. Next, so first off, we have Dinah, Hero for Hire. He has the effect that whenever he is special summoned, you can banish cards from your opponent's graveyard equal to the number of monsters for hire with different names that you control. And then he has a Wadhopper effect where your opponent can only target this card for an attack. 2 copies means boom, your opponent can't attack. Moving on, we have 3 copies of Beat, Bladesman for Hire. The thing about Beat, I know I have a proxy in here, which is just this backwards card, but Beat essentially is Beat is a really hard card to come by, because I don't, have a play group with an extensive collection of literally everything. Excuse me, my throat is just killing me after trying to record all of these. But all level 4 and lower of monsters for hire have the same effect, that they can summon one from your hand during your main phase, and they all gain different effects whenever one is summoned. So Beat's effect, whenever a monster for hire is summoned, you can search for a monster for hire from your deck. That's all he does. Next up, we have 3 copies of Dampa, Marksman for Hire. I'm not going to say the for hire part of their names. I'm just going to say the first part of their names for the rest of the video. I hate for hire. I hate the name for hire, and I'll talk about it later. So his effect is whenever you summon one of your monsters, you can target a face-up card your opponent controls and destroy it. Yeah, it targets a face-up card. It's any face-up card, and it destroys it, which isn't bad. I just don't like it. He's mediocre at best. A lot of this deck is mediocre at best. Come here. Come on. Come to me. 3 copies of Seal. Seal has the effect that whenever a monster whenever one of your archetypal monsters is summoned, you can add one from your graveyard back to your hand, which I really enjoy. It's amazing. I love it. It's really good recovery for a certain card that I'm about to talk about that could be so much better. Next up, we have 3 copies of Helmer. This card could be much better if its effect was different. It has the effect that whenever a monster is summoned, or whenever one of your monsters is special summoned while he's face up on the field, all of them basically have that same requirement for their effect to activate. You can discard a card for hire. I hate that. And then draw 1 card. If it was draw 2 instead of draw 1, I'd be happier, but it's not. Next up, we have 3 copies of Recon. Recon is better Dampa. He targets set cards, so you can basically take value away from your opponent with Recon, and I appreciate that very much. I appreciate denying your opponent value, because they either have to activate it in the moment, or they just lose out on it permanently. Next up, we have 2 copies of Raphael, Champion for Hire. Fuck, why did I say that? I was only going to say the first part of that. Well, we'll roll with it. He has the effect of Pot of Duality, essentially, but he doesn't limit you to normal summons or only for hires for the rest of the turn. But basically, you excavate cards off the top of your deck equal to the number of monsters for hire with different names that you control, excluding himself. And then you can add any card from among them to your hand. which is actually not bad. And then he has the effect that whenever an opponent's monster effect is activated, you can discard a card for hire to negate the activation. It does not destroy. Keep that in mind, it does not destroy. Whiz for hire, or Whiz. Run her at 2. She has the effect that whenever she is special summoned, you can gain 500 life points for each monster for hire with different names, excluding herself. And then she negates what Raphael doesn't in spells and traps at the same cost of discarding a card for hire. She's also a level 7 water spellcaster. Yeah, it's weird. Then next up, 2 copies of Bravo Fighter for hire. It's habit from the other ones, I'm sorry. But his effect is, whenever a monster for hire is special summoned while he's face up on the field, you can have all monsters for hire you currently control gain 500 attack and defense. It's an attack boost. That's all I'm going to say. Next up, we have 2 copies of Philo, Messenger for hire. She has the effect that whenever a monster for hire is special summoned while she is face up on the field, you can target a monster for hire in your graveyard and special summon it back to your field, essentially. Sorry, I'm burping. I drank a Fanta, a green apple Fanta, and now I have gas. I'm sorry. You probably didn't even know that or want to hear that. I'm sorry, guys. Next up, 1 Guardia, 1 Jikizaru. You can run any 2 Kaijus in here. It does not matter. These are just the 2 I have and the 2 I am running. And just simply because they're Kaijus, you can tribute over an opponent's monster to give them one of the Kaijus, and then while they have that Kaiju, you can summon the other one from your hand. And that's just really good, and it's also extra materials for a certain monster in the extra deck. Next up, we have 2 copies of Fandora, the Flying Fortress. It has an effect that you can skip your normal draw to add a monster for hire from your deck to your hand. And then it has another effect that if you control 5 or more monsters for hire with different names, you can send this card from your field spell zone to the graveyard to destroy all cards your opponent controls, and then your opponent takes no damage for the rest of the turn. If it didn't have that last line of text where your opponent takes no damage for the rest of the turn, it'd be broken, and it'd probably be banned. I'm sorry. Next up, 1 copy of Book of Moon. Yes, the rest of my spells are all going to be one-ofs. It's basically flip an opponent's monster face down. It's whatever. And it's quick play, so if you go first, you set it. Yeah. 1 copy of Interrupted Kaiju Slumber. Interrupted Kaiju Slumber nukes both players' monsters, and you give your opponent a Kaiju and yourself a Kaiju, and then they both have, or your Kaiju monster has to attack their Kaiju monster in the battle phase. So yeah. And then it can also, it can banish itself to search and add a Kaiju from your deck to your hand. Hey you, what are you doing, Dinah? Quit sliding out of my deck. Next up, we have the 1 copy of Rhoda. Searches for beat, which is really good. Oh, looks like ups came by. Okay. So there's Rhoda. Next up, we have 1 copy of Mayhem for Hire. It's quick play monster reborn for the archetype. Summons a monster back in defense position. It summons a monster for hire back in defense position from your graveyard. And then monster reborn. Because, stealing a monster from your opponent's graveyard is good. And also reviving one of your monsters for hire is really good. Next up, we have our traps, and we have 3 copies of training for hire for all your training needs. One of the longest names in Yu-Gi-Oh! I will say that much. One of the most convoluted names in Yu-Gi-Oh! And it's dumb. And what it does is all of your monsters can, or whenever they are destroyed, you tag them out into a lower level one. So like, let's say Helmer dies, I get Dampa or Recon from the deck, or somebody that's level 2 from the deck. And yes, it has to be one level lower. It cannot be any lower. That shit really sucks. And then my interesting tech for the deck. I'm going to try and start doing interesting tech for the deck in every deck profile, and that's Horn of the Phantom Beast. He exists. He is here. He is the god. He's the goat. Horn of the Phantom Beast, you target a beast or beast warrior monster you control, and then it gains 800 attack, or well, you equip it, and then it gains 800 attack, and it gains 800 attack, and whenever it destroys something by battle, you get to draw a card. That's it for the main take. I'm sorry I spaced so bad. Again, I'm just fried. I'm done after this. I just can't. Next up, we have not one copy. 2 copies of Folgo. This is the reason why none of the negation effects destroy. Because when his summoning requirements are 3 monsters with different types. Not hard to pull off in this deck. Oh, that's a hair. Let's get that out of here. And whenever he's link summoned, you can summon any monster for hire from your deck with a different type from the 3 used for a summon. And then he has an effect that whenever a card your opponent controls is destroyed, draw 1 card. But wait, there's more. If you control 3 or more monsters for hire with different names, draw 2 additional cards. You basically go +3 in card advantage off of this card alone, just because of that effect and how easy it is to have 3 monsters for hire with different names. Next up, 1 Saryuja, just because you can make this card really easily and you can use it to make Folgo. Also, by the way, Folgo cannot be used as link material, so haha, you're not using Folgo to make Saryuja. But yeah, Saryuja, everybody knows him. If you use 2 names, anything summoned to his own, gains 300 attack and defense. 3 names, you can once per turn summon 1 from the hand. 4 names, you draw 4 and put 3 back. Yeah, these are your big bad boss monsters. And then Nightmare Unicorn, everybody knows Nightmare Unicorn. Whenever it's link summoned, you can discard a card to target a card your opponent controls and shuffle it back into the deck. That's actually really good. And then it has a co-link effect for co-linked Nightmare monsters, but it's pointless. Don't worry about it. It's just don't worry about it. If you want to read it, go ahead and read it. If you can read the card text from here, feel free to pause, read the card text. I'll actually zoom in for you guys. Here you go. Pause the video now if you want to read what his co-link effect is, if you don't already know what it does. Pause the video now, read it. If you've already read it, then go ahead and skip forward maybe like 5 seconds, 6 seconds, I don't know. Next up, we have Nightmare Cerberus. On spot removal, you can discard it, or whenever it's link summoned, discard a card, target 1 special summon monster in your opponent's main monster zone and destroy it. Not bad, it's on spot removal. And then it has the effect that anything that's co-linked cannot be killed by battle, or not battle, all co-linked monsters cannot be destroyed by card effects. There we go, that's what I was thinking of. And finally, Underclock Taker. Underclock Taker is just I mean, he can make your opponent's monster lose attack points equal to what he points to, which isn't bad, but I mean, Next up, we have our XZs, and then this is the rest of the extra deck, and then I'm going to go into my end sequence. Anyways, Gaga Cowboy. You can Cowboy for game in this deck. Yes, you can Cowboy for game in this deck. Is it consistent? No, but you can. Amazing card. Basically, whenever you summon him in defense position, you can detach a material, inflict 800 points of burn damage to your opponent, and then he has an attack position effect that nobody uses, but it's basically during the battle phase or something like that. You can detach a material from him, or no, during your main phase, you detach the material, but during the battle phase, all monsters your opponent controls lose 1,000 attack, and he gains 1,000 attack. So, yeah. And then we have number 47, 2 level 3s for a once per turn detach to attack your opponent directly with a 2,000 attack point shark. Yay, I love it. Excuse me. My throat is just all sorts of fucked right now. And then he can once per turn attach a water monster you control to him as a material, which is not bad. Because there are, like, a decent amount of waters in this deck. Next up, we have number 101. Once per turn, detach 2 materials from him to target a special summon monster your opponent controls and equip it as a material to this, and then you can once per turn detach a material to prevent this card from being killed by battle or card effects. Next up, we have number 41. This is a really good go first, make this card and win kind of card, because it can lock your opponent out of monster effects for an entire turn. You summon it in defense position, and then anything that's summoned after this card hits the field, or everything on the field is swapped to defense position, if it can go to defense position, and anything swapped to defense position loses its effects, which, you know, not bad. And his attack position effect, I think, is just he cannot be targeted or destroyed by card effects, or one or the other, something like that. Next up, P.K. Breaksword. P.K. Breaksword can detach a material, target a card you control and a card your opponent controls, and destroy them both. He can target himself. It's not bad. Next up, we have mstnegates.exe on legs. I'm just kidding. We have Tornado Dragon. The new Master Roll revisions basically are going to make this card able to negate stuff because of how they're changing certain things. Like, if an effect has to activate on the field, or essentially what it is if an effect activates on the field, or has to activate on the field, and it leaves the field, it misses timing. Go after this, YouTube, make a capital G, he kind of goes over it. But anyways, he's basically Mystical Space Typhoon, or MST, and the fact that he is once per turn during either player's turn, detach a material to target and destroy one spell or trap your opponent controls. Next up, we have Dark Rebellion Xyz Dragon. Detach 2 materials to target a face-up monster your opponent controls. Have its attack, and then this card gains that attack. Not bad. And then lastly, we have number 20, Giga Brilliant. Once per turn, detach a material from this card. All face-up monsters you control gain 300 attack. That's all he does. Summoning requirements are 2 level 3s. And Tornado Dragon is just 2 level 4s, and Dark Rebellion is just 2 level 4s. PK is 2 level 3s, and everything else is basically 2 level 3s or 4s. So anyways, into the end segment. I'm sorry that my very, very white arm was in your way. End segment. If you guys did enjoy this, I'm sorry it was very rushed. I'm sorry I was speaking really fast. I'm sorry if it sounds really bad. And I'm sorry if it's much worse than the last few. My phone's just been bugging me, and I want to get this out to you guys. And I'm getting fatigued from recording it. But please, if you did still enjoy it,